Hey dudes, it's Lerald. Expedition is a really strong mechanic early on in a PoE 1 league. If your experience with Expedition is only from PoE 2, well, congratulations, you're finally getting to experience the good version of Expedition here in PoE 1. It is a money printer and a gear printer, and it's actually good at doing both of those things. So run Expedition, Tujen will give you orbs, Rog will make gear for you, ta-da. Also, these expeditions are over extremely quickly in this footage, right? Like, the monsters spawn, they're dead, and now we're just kind of sitting here. That's not just me being lazy, it's also part of the sales pitch. Expedition is fast. As we mentioned in our last couple of videos, we are now working with PoE Vault to bring you written guides for our PoE 1 and PoE 2 videos. These guides are going to pair with the video content and offer the same level of care and consideration we give to everything else that we do. We have a written guide for Expedition, and you can find a link to that in the description of this video. So let's get into it, but first subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've been streaming here and on Twitch at Lerald Live recently, so check that out as well. Join our Discord. On top of that, we've got a really amazing community, and you should come be part of it. And finally, let's get to the Expedition. Okay, let's talk about Expedition. What do? You go into maps, you blow up a bunch of monsters at a dig site, get their logbooks, get their special currency that you trade with Expedition NPCs, profit. In terms of the profiting, you trade with Tujen for currency. Like so, you walk up to him and say, hey man, give me the orbs. Done. You can craft gear with Rog. Those are the two main things that you do. With Expedition, it's pretty much just those two things. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the Atlas passive tree setup that we're going to be using here, kind of at the start of the league. And what we're doing is we're coming over here to the right-hand side of the tree and taking Hunt for Answers, a lot of these bonuses here that increase your chance to find Expedition encounters in your maps. You already have a baseline chance of 8% for Expedition and most of the other league mechanics in the game to spawn in your map. So if you add in another 92% chance for Expedition to spawn in your maps, that adds up to 100%. You'll have Expedition in every map. We do like taking some of these bonuses like shaping the mountains and shaping the world and shaping the skies to get a chance for our maps to drop a tier higher. And then all of these bonuses that give an additional chance at a Curac mission upon completing maps are also really good for map sustain early on. Once we've gotten all of those, it's a really good idea to just go ahead and get Extreme Archaeology and pretty much all of the notables for Expedition. They're all really valuable and they have good multiplicative synergy with each other as well. Buried Knowledge gives you more monsters, like more runic monsters, and then also more logbooks from them. Ancient Writings gives you more remnants, which means more chance to multiply the value of monsters, and then also a chance to get more modifiers on those remnants. Distinguished Demolitionist gives you increased explosive radius. Extreme Archaeology is obviously great because it gives you a massive amount of explosive radius and you only have to drop one bomb in the Expedition, so you can just set it, pop it, and immediately kill everything off instead of spending a minute or so lining up all of your explosions correctly and then scratching up the ground in Noble Quest just give you Tujen and Danig, and they are the two best guys. They're the guys you want the most of. The one wheel that we don't bother taking when it comes to Expedition is Ancient Decay, because it just doesn't give much. Gives you a chance for, or I guess it's 100% chance, but still, it's 20% of life missing from Expedition monsters. They die in a handful of seconds upon spawning. So that's Expedition in the Atlas passive tree. Pretty much everything except for this one wheel is super, super awesome. You kind of want to take all of it. So now let's take a look at Scarabs. So you can get Expedition Scarabs, and maybe at the very start of things, they'll be useful. They do make it so that Expedition is guaranteed to spawn. You can also get that same effect from Expedition on the map device. If you have a free craft or two, you can use those. It's probably not worth spending actual Chaos Orbs on guaranteeing Expedition, and really, other than maybe like some self-found Expedition Scarabs, it's not super worth using them. But, I mean, it's something you can do at the very beginning of mapping, and then long-term you're going to phase these out. Expedition Scarabs of Rune Finding and Expedition Scarabs of Versium Powder are quite a bit different, though. Expedition Scarabs of Versium Powder just make the radius on the explosive be significantly larger, 80% increase. This does stack additively, not multiplicatively, but still additively with Extreme Archaeology's 200% increased explosive radius, and Distinguished Demolitionists 35% increased explosive radius, so all of that combined is over 300% increased explosive radius. The explosive, with all of that lined up, is like larger than the size of the screen, which is awesome, pretty huge. It's a big multiplier on Expedition. It means you can get a lot of value out of every expedition in your maps, and you can really multiply that with Expedition Scarabs of Rune Finding, which you can run 2 of. This will give you a 100% increase to the number of runic monster markers, and that multiplies nicely with Buried Knowledge, which gives you more logbooks, which are only dropped by runic monsters in maps. This also adds together okay with the second line on Buried Knowledge, where you get 20% increased number of runic monster markers, but like, this is a big notable, right? And it's in the middle of the tree, and it's only giving 20% increased runic monster marker numbers. This is giving 100%, so this is like 5 times as many more monsters as you're getting out of this very good node. So that should kind of indicate just how valuable these rune finding scarabs are. They're really good. Then you kind of have a ton of other options available to you, something that we recommend if you're doing sort of like a middle of the road, like you're comfortably doing tier 16 maps with scarabs, but you're not trying to like really push your defenses for all they're worth. It's just to slot in a couple of scarabs of monstrous lineage to fill out the rest, right? So the idea would be 2 rune finding, 1 Verisium powder, and then either 1 or 2 monstrous lineage scarabs, depending on whether you have the 5 or 6 socket map device opened up, and that will give you a bunch of extra monsters in your maps. Pack size is a good modifier for Expedition, because more pack size means more runic monsters to kill, more chances to get logbooks and currency, so that's obviously very good. If, on the other hand, you are strong and you are ready to be tested, then you can add in an Expedition Scarab of Archaeology, which will add 2 additional suffixes and prefixes to every remnant in the expedition, and I'll show off what that looks like in a minute here, but basically every single one of the remnants is going to look like a novel, and they're going to make monsters insanely dangerous and insanely rewarding, which is great, but like, it is a lot. You also probably want to add in a Cartography Scarab of Risk. These are being capped at a limit of 1 in the coming league, but 2 additional modifiers is probably the strongest bonus that you can add in for a single Scarab for synergizing with the rest of what's going on. It's certainly going to be the hardest mechanic. You could very easily just do a Scarab of Monstrous Lineage instead for, ease of use. And now with that being said, let's slot in a map here and kind of show what this is going to look like. So Risk Scarab and Archaeology Scarab, and then just the other 2, a couple of rune findings and a Verisium powder, and now we're going to cut to the expedition. And here we are at an expedition. We've cleared out the entire map. We've cleared out pretty much the entire map, at least. We've clicked all the quant and rarity nodes from altars that we could, and now you can see these remnants are massive. They're absolutely in like novels, some of these remnants. And what you want to do is, when you're looking at a remnant, whether it has only 2 mods, a prefix and a suffix, or like half a dozen mods, you want to read the downsides, the things that are written in blue text, and just see, like, is there anything that disables my build? If I do fire damage and I see this line right here, monsters are immune to fire damage, I probably don't want to hit that remnant. If I'm playing a build that's entirely reliant on staying alive through life leech and damage cannot leech life from monsters, say I'm playing a Slayer, which I am, I'm not going to want to hit that node. So you just read the downsides and then you look for the upsides. And the upsides there are a lot of really good ones. One of them that unfortunately I don't see in here, but they can be extremely valuable in this lighter font, is runic monsters are duplicated. This does exactly what it sounds like. It makes it so that anytime you would pop up 1 runic monster, now he's 2 guys instead. It doesn't stack, so if you somehow manage to find that twice in a single expedition, you're just kind of out of luck. But you're just looking for modifiers that give increased quantity of items, increased number of logbooks dropped, just any sort of benefit that increases the amount of expedition currency and logbooks that you're going to get from runic monsters, because the main thing you're looking for in your expeditions and maps is logbooks, and the only way that you get them is through runic monsters. This is not like how it works in PoE 2. Runic monsters are the only thing that can drop logbooks, so they cannot come from chests. So we set our bomb, and then we read this incredibly long list of modifiers, and just double check to make sure that there is nothing that is going to prevent us from being able to clear this, and it seems like it's doable, so let's go ahead and press the button and kill some monsters. Alright, and that was pretty much that for that expedition. Nothing super special happened. No logbooks, unfortunately, but that's fine. Now, one little note I want to point out here is that while the NPC that is at the expedition is important in terms of what artifacts and what currency can drop, they don't determine the types of logbooks it can drop. So, for example, if we had gotten a logbook to drop, it could have easily been a Danig or a Tujen logbook, even though Gwynnen is here overlooking this expedition. She didn't prevent those other types of logbooks from dropping. I don't know what's hitting me, and at this point, I'm just gonna leave. Now let's take a look at some expedition NPCs, and we'll start with Tujen. He is kind of the main guy, and he pretty much just trades you artifacts for currency items. That's really what he does. So generally the rule of thumb with Tujen is that you only want to buy things from him that are worth like at least a chaos or more. And so if there's nothing that's worth at least 1 chaos or more, you kind of just want to hit your button down here that'll spend an exotic coinage and refresh his page. And hey, here we go, bunch of chaos orbs. So in terms of haggling with him, because that is his whole mechanic, you can try to get him down low, but that's generally a waste of time. If you offer him about 2/3 roughly of his baseline asking price, he'll take it pretty much immediately. If you go below 2/3, he might try and fight with you, but yeah, somewhere in that 2/3 to 3/4 of his initial asking price range is pretty much the sweet spot for just click, scroll wheel, go, click, scroll wheel, go, just repeat. That's really the move with old Tujen. ROG is a little bit more of a complicated process. He offers you a bunch of bases, and they'll have stats on them. Some of them can be kind of good. This one has, this is an amulet with like stats, crit chance, crit multi, fizz damage to attacks. There's a lot of decent rolls on here, or decent mods with bad actual rolls on here. And he has a lot of very interesting options available to him that aren't available to players. Things like upgrade the level of modifiers by 1 tier, and everything that he does is RNG, but also very literal. So remove the modifier with the lowest level. We could do that and remove a low level energy shield that was very bad. We probably don't want to reroll the suffixes. They have pretty good rolls, so we'll skip that and hope that we get something better. And then at league start, you might be justified in just going like, hey, you know what? I'd rather you not brick any of these mods. We're just going to take the item. But in this case, we'll brick this because we're on standard anyway. And he just he's annulled off a kind of decent mod, and now he's offering to chaos your prefixes randomly. A lot of it does boil down to just kind of working like this, where we had a decent item, we said craft it up, and he's kind of in the process of just bricking this item. Thanks, ROG. ROG crafting can definitely be very RNG, and a lot of the skill of ROG crafting is really just knowing when to stop and when to take over yourself. Now, as I said at the start of the video, Gwynnen is kind of the gambling NPC. The main thing that people will do is just scroll through her pages looking for heavy belts or leather belts, and then buy them hoping that they'll be either mage bloods or headhunters. I don't think either of us has ever gotten anything valuable from Gwynnen at all. You know, we could just waste some time here, but pretty much any time that you spend with old Gwen is wasted. Then Danek's whole deal is that he just sells you expedition artifacts that correspond to the other 3 NPCs, and you pretty much only ever want to buy Tujen's artifacts, really. None of the other ones are worth spending the Sun artifact on, so you just buy all the Tujen stuff. I think I'm literally capped on Tujen artifacts because we're on Standard League, but he does also sell exotic coinage. You could buy those. Sometimes he'll sell logbooks in this area as well, and we're just going to sit here and waste some burial medallions until we see one. Yeah, so eventually we got a logbook there. I think it took 20-something burial medallions, so not a super high chance for it to happen, but a fun jackpot when it does. And that's actually a good segue into talking about logbooks. So logbooks have 4 factions, just like there are 4 NPCs, and those are Druids of the Broken Circle, which is Gwynnen, Order of the Chalice, which is ROG, Black Scythe Mercenaries, which are Tujen, and Knights of the Sun, which corresponds with Danik. I have ordered them right to left here in my hideout. Danik gets the best, Tujen, ROG, Gwynnen, that order, and that's the same order that you want to approach any of the logbooks. So anytime you see Knights of the Sun, you want to do that, and you only get one of the either 2 or 3 options available, but like that's your top priority. Do Knights of the Sun. Just like with maps, you can roll logbooks. Depending on how valuable they are, they May even be worth taking over to the bestiary and using a Fennable Plague Arachnid to split them into 2 items. Or maybe not, you know, just depends on what all that costs. But like, we already know before we even start here, we're wanting to do this Knights of the Sun expedition. We're going to do that. Now, if you have 2 options that are relatively comparable, like, let me find a logbook that has 2 black scythe sets on it, and then we'll go from there. Here we go, perfect, first shot. So in this case, we have 2 competitive options, and now what we want to do is look at the implicit modifiers and make our choice based on which one has the best set of implicit modifiers available. So expeditions are capable of containing bosses. There is 1 boss for each of the 4 NPCs. The most valuable of the 4 is Olroth. That's a boss from Danig, of course, and sometimes they will just straight up show up on an expedition logbook as an implicit, like this one. This one contains Medved. Unfortunately, that's the Gwynin boss. Pretty worthless, but if you have a logbook that says area contains Olroth or even just Varana, that's the Tujen boss, then that is a significantly more valuable logbook, absolutely worth splitting, and potentially even just worth, like, selling. Otherwise, you're pretty much wanting to look for increased number of explosives, increased explosive radius, and increased explosive placement range. Then after that, things like increased number of chest markers can be useful, and chance for items dropped from chests to be duplicated is another pretty useful stat. So in this case, the cemetery has increased quantity of artifacts, chest markers, and placement range, and the mountainside has exactly the same modifiers, but with slightly better rolls on just kind of eyeballing it, I think. So we can really go with either of them. Let's go with the mountainside, I suppose, and then we'll kind of run through that and talk it out. Now, once you get into a logbook, you'll be able to look around, and this is fantastic because we did get one that has a boss in it. That can randomly happen. It's not super common, but great when it does. But you'll see that all of the chest markers have reward markers on them. The Chaos Orb, those are currency. Those are great. Those are generally the best ones. There can also be a lot of underground and side areas in your logbooks. The underground areas will be marked with this sort of blue glowing marker, and underground areas and side areas can just contain several random chests, anywhere from like 2 to 6 random reward chests, so they're pretty much always worth going after. This is an area that I think doesn't have any side areas in it. It just has a bunch of chests, but some of them will have side areas as well, and if you mouse over them with an explosive, I can show that off on the underground area. You'll see it like lights up to indicate that blowing it up will actually have an impact. It'll make something happen. And that's the same with the boss over here. When we blow this up, the boss will actually come out and fight us. This runic dome looking thing here. And she'll also benefit from any remnants that we hit prior to hitting her in the chain. And that's true for all of Expedition. Any remnants you hit will apply to anything after that in the chain. In maps, it doesn't matter because you just get one big boom. But in Expedition logbooks, you don't get any benefit of anything from the Atlas applying to them, so you do have to actually build a chain through the entire logbook, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're just going to go around looking for reward chests that we like. So this particular little swirl, this Triskelion, is the Expedition reward chest indicator, and we do like to go after those. Those give a bunch of artifacts and vendor refresh currency, which is the main thing that you get out of logbooks, in addition to just, like, you know, divine orbs or whatever. And so that's pretty much what we're going around looking for. It's just currency, just random reward chests. You know, in maps, we're looking to get as many logbooks from Expedition as we can, but logbooks can't drop more logbooks, so we're not trying to get monsters. Not that we're avoiding them, we just don't care about them. And so we're just pretty much ignoring those the whole way and just going for reward chests from top to bottom, from T to B. And that'll pretty much do us. We can hit one more reward. There we go. Once again, as kind of always with most league mechanics in PoE, speed's kind of the name of the game. You're better off doing 2 logbooks, like, pretty decently in 5 minutes than doing 1 really good logbook. It takes you 7 or 8. You know, it winds up working out better to be kind of quick with all of your logbooks and not overthinking it. Just as long as you get all the underground areas and all of the bosses, you should be good. Although with all the talking I was doing, I might have missed one of the underground areas. Doesn't matter. We got the boss. That's all we need for the demonstration here. Oh, thank God, I didn't forget the underground area after all. So as I said earlier, you can get anywhere from like 2 to 6 reward chests in any of the underground areas. This one has a cartographer chest, so some maps, a legion thing, probably get some incubators, and then an expedition chest, which is actually pretty useful. We're definitely going to get some artifacts out of that. You also get a little bit of story progression if that's important to you out of these green texts. You can go talk to our good friend Danig and learn a little bit more about their whatever it is they're doing here in Rayclast. I don't know. I never did pay attention. My bad. All right, and so we have the boss. We get to fight her. Each of the bosses is kind of different. They're all represented in, I don't know, one of the tier 17 maps with a name that I can't remember. You get to experience kind of all of them. Varana is one of the less interesting. Olroth is definitely the most fun and interesting of the 4 bosses. Yep, she pretty much just fell over. She did drop a bunch of vendor reroll currency, though. When you get a boss, you probably do want to take a little bit of extra time and try to really juice it up. Because 14 or whatever exotic coinage that we got out of her is, like, decent, but you can definitely do better. I think my personal best is, like, 36 or something in a single one, something like that. And that is pretty much an expedition logbook. Clear it out, loot all the chests, kill all the guys, grab all of the vendor reroll currency. They'll fill you up on artifacts pretty effectively, and then you just do another one. And that's Expedition. It's a great mechanic. We absolutely recommend doing it at League Start. It is going to be one of our League Start farm strategies for sure. Speaking of recommendations, it is still October, and that means it's still spooky movie recommendation time once again, and this time we're going to recommend another classic, Carrie. We talked about it a bit. It's a top 2 Stephen King movie for us. We feel pretty solid on that front. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord and become part of our community. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us and help us make more PoE content, become a channel member or come boost the Discord. Thanks for watching. Bye.